Everybody, I'm an addict named Barry.
Hey, Barry.
And it's good to be here. This is my topic, self-acceptance. And it's a funny thing because when I was asked to do this, I believed I had some. In the time that's passed since then, I've doubted if I had any. And we'll find out. You know what I mean? I'm going to put my glasses on. There's a couple lines in this pamphlet that I think it's real important that we read and understand. And it talks about self-acceptance on a deep level taking years to achieve. And I can relate to that because mine comes and goes like the wind. It says, we may find ourselves trying to change environmental factors in an attempt to satisfy the inner gnawing we feel. In situations such as these, our experience has shown that it's best to look inward for the source of our discontent. And when something's wrong in my life, it's much easier to point the blame to other people, other places, and other things. I'm great at it. I've done it all my life. And it doesn't matter so far how long I've been clean. When things don't go my way, that's what I do. And it says, today, the first step towards self-acceptance is acceptance of our addiction. First step. When I can come in here and admit my need for help, that's my first step towards accepting myself. The next thing we need to help us towards self-acceptance is a belief in a power greater than ourselves. And for me, at first, and still to this day, the evidence that I've gathered is you people. The evidence that I see in your lives. Sometimes it's hard for me to see and measure the evidence that I've gathered in my own life. I just can't see the forest through the trees. But I can come in here and see somebody who a month ago was raising their hand for a newcomer chip, come in here and raise their hand for 30 days, and I know that something's happening here. I know there is a power here. I know that that power is greater than all of us. I know that that power works through all of us. And I know as long as I'm here, I'm in the right place. I know as long as I'm here, I'm going to get what I need. I may not get what I want. I heard for the first time in my life, like this week, I heard somebody say something. They said, you know what? God answers all prayers. Just sometimes the answer is no. And man, it struck me like a ton of bricks. You know? And a lot of times the answer is no. Maybe I asked for too much. It's so funny how the simplicity of what I once asked for got so complicated, went to simplistic again, and now all of a sudden it's complicated again. When I first came here, all I wanted was a day clean. That's all I wanted. Then, once I started accumulating a few days clean, I wanted a job to go with it. And then once I got the job, I was just grateful to have a job and a day clean. You know? And little by little, I asked for a lot of things, and not necessarily in the form of a direct prayer, but in the form of meditation. You know? Thinking about how nice my life would be with these things. You know, and that is a form of prayer. And a lot of things have come my way. And now I'm really, you know, when I pray, all I want to ask God for is the willingness to accept whatever He has in store for me on any given day. Because I know I've gathered enough evidence to know that He has never given me more on any given day than I can handle. Never. And boy, he's given me some tough days. But I'm still here and I'm still clean. You know, I want to share a little bit. A couple weeks ago, and this is what I was talking about when I talk about my self-acceptance level. A couple weeks ago, I hurt my back at work. And I've had a history of a back problem for like the last 10 years. I have 2 herniated discs. I've been in and out of work. I've been on disability and out of work like 4 of the last 9 years. And I re-injured it at work. And the doctor gave me a few pills, and they didn't last long enough. You know, it was a work doctor, and it was on a Sunday afternoon, and I had a guy I sponsor at my house, and he had a guy he sponsored at my house. And we decided we were all going to hang out and eat dinner and have a good time and then go do an H&I presentation. And my back was killing me. So I called my mother-in-law and I asked her if she had any pain medication I was going to self-prescribe. And she said, yeah, sure, come over and get it. So I went over and got it, and I read the label, and it said take 1 every 4 to 6 hours. It said take 1 to 2. Every 4 to 6 hours is necessary, and boy, that's dangerous for somebody like me. You know what I mean? Because so what I did was, you know, I said, well, I know I'm an addict. I'm going to take 1. Okay, so I took 1. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 6 o'clock rolling around. It's 4 hours. I said, well, shit, I didn't feel the 1. Didn't help. Let me take 2. And I took 2. And by the time we got to the H&I presentation, I was a mess. My stomach was turned. I was sweating. I couldn't stop scratching my nose. And not only was it real evident to me, but it was probably real evident to everybody in this H&I presentation. And it was very, very evident to the 2 guys who I rode up there with, because they had seen me they had been with me all day. And what happened was, within a couple days, one of the guys who was with me, like, who I sponsor, called me up, and he said, you know, I really have a problem, and I don't know what I'm going to do about it. And it hurt. You know, I've lost people that I've sponsored for a lot of different reasons, but never for something that's stupid. You know what I mean? And I felt like saying this exact thing, like, look inward, you know, but I couldn't do it because it was me. You know, you don't have to look at yourself because what you saw was me. But then again, when you see me, what you're seeing is yourself. You know, like Dutch said, if you can't love me, help me. That's all. Don't laugh at me. Don't talk about me. Don't make me a joke. Don't make fun of me. Don't justify and rationalize anything. Just help me. My imperfection is stated just by me walking in that door. And anyway, what I was saying, it had been bothering me for 2 weeks because I hadn't gotten an answer, and today I got an answer from the guy, and he told me that he still would like me to be his sponsor. And man, it just really makes me feel good. It reassures my belief in this program. It reassures my belief in my own personal program. It reassures my self-acceptance because, like I said, 99 people could tell me something good, and the one person that tells me something negative, I'm gonna dwell on it forever. You know what I mean? I'm gonna dwell on it forever. You know, and I know I have a program, and I know how to live this way. I know how to live this way. I know what our steps are about. And it says, the most effective means of achieving self-acceptance is through applying the 12 steps of recovery. And I've applied these steps. I know these steps. I've written these steps. I've lived these steps. I've worked these steps. I've shared these steps. I've taught these steps to others the way they were taught to me. But yet, on any given second, at any given day, I'll doubt my program. It says, we wish to build a solid foundation of recovery and therefore need to examine our actions and motivations and begin changing those things that are unacceptable. What was acceptable for me at 2 years is not acceptable today. At 2 years clean, it was acceptable for me to bring home a 14-year-old girl and take advantage. That is not acceptable behavior today. The other day at work, they asked me to fill a vending machine for them. And I said, yeah, no problem. And I went, I got the soda, I started putting the soda, the soda in, and all of a sudden I saw the coin box, and I saw there was nobody around, and just like that, I reached into the coin box and threw a handful of quarters in my pocket. Later on, I couldn't understand why I wasn't feeling good about myself. In order to accept myself, I have to do acceptable things. It's that simple. I can't steal and feel good about myself. I can't hurt you and feel good about myself. I came here looking for relief. That's why I came to Narcotics Anonymous. No other reason. I needed relief. Then all of a sudden I'm given relief, and then the next minute I'm biting the hand that feeds me. Why do we do that? It's the true nature of the disease of addiction. You know, I remember Dutch is my sponsor, and I love him, and I thank God for him. And I remember last week he told me, he said, you know what, we're the kind of people that life just isn't going to go smooth for. You know what I mean? It just isn't going to go smooth for us, because every time it's sailing smooth, we'll do something to screw it up. Like what he was talking about today with the dilemmas. You know, I think I'm addicted to dilemmas. You know what I mean? If there isn't a crisis in my life, I'll do my best to create one. I am not accustomed to smooth sailing. I do not know how to react to smooth sailing. And if I don't have something like that going on in my life, I'll do my best to manufacture it. And I hope that that all changes in time. It says, we remember that we have the disease of addiction and that it takes a long time to achieve self-acceptance on a deep level. Well, the guy that spoke before me was talking about 23 years, talking to people that had 30 years, and they still had it come and go. I have hope that they have it more than they don't. That's my hope. My faith is that they've endured the storms. That no matter what's been presented to them, they had enough evidence, they had enough faith, they had enough dependence, they had enough God reliance to believe that no matter what, it would be okay. And probably the most important line in this whole pamphlet, it says, a spiritual understanding of self-acceptance is knowing that it is all right to find ourselves in pain, to have made mistakes, and to know that we are not perfect. A spiritual understanding. That's that invisible understanding. Now, all our lives, like it was said earlier, we based our lives on what we could see, feel, and touch. Okay? And I could be up here in a $400 suit, wearing $300 shoes, $200 tie, and have a 560 Mercedes-Benz parked outside. Does that mean I have self-acceptance? The illusion is, this dude's got something. Which, in order to have all that, you do have to have something. Cash. Credit, right. But it doesn't, there's no way that equals self-acceptance. Social acceptability, things, do not equal recovery. And why we ever used in the first place was a lack of self-acceptance. The opposite to me, self-acceptance is equivocable to self-love. They kind of go hand in hand. The opposite of self-love is self-hatred. The things we did to ourselves demonstrated self-hatred. To me. I would have never allowed anybody else to do to me the things that I did to myself. I would have never allowed anybody to make me feel that hopeless, that helpless. I wouldn't allow them to isolate me. I wouldn't allow anybody to do the things to me that I've done to myself. And the only reason I did those things to myself is because I hated me. I hated me, I hated you, I hated life, and I knew no other way than to do the things I did. I had no self-acceptance as a little kid. I always felt different. I always felt alone. I always felt better than, while at the same time feeling worse than. I always wanted to be somebody other than who and what I was. And the reason I used drugs was because for a while they gave me that ability. They made me believe that I fit in. They made me believe that I was a part of something. And I was. But it wasn't positive. And what first started out as love, peace, and brotherhood ended up in give me all your money, motherfucker, or I'll take it. I never started getting loaded with the intentions of stealing anything from anybody. You know? I just wanted to belong. And then the drugs turned me into somebody who I didn't want to be. They just progressed this disease. The restoration to sanity that's talked about in the second step is being put in touch with principles. And those principles stop the internal conflict in our lives, which is what made us hate ourselves the most. The internal conflict. I was always in conflict with me, and I was always in conflict with you. I was always stuck between a rock and a hard place. And the restoration is I'm being kept in touch with reality. And my reality for me is my first step. Who and what I am. What part I play in my life. What part I play in other people's lives. What part I play in the workplace. What part I play with my children. What part I play with my wife. What part I play with the people I sponsor. What part I play with my sponsor. My assets and my liabilities. And when it talks about, on page 101 in the basic text, it says, our real value is in being ourselves. My real value is just being me. Because there's going to be somebody in here looking for somebody like me to relate to. Not everybody in here is going to relate to everybody. That's why we're so varied. And that's why we have one common theme, recovery. That's why we have one primary purpose. That's why it says at the end of the fifth tradition, when all is said and done, we have but one thing to offer here, recovery from this disease. Because you get a room full of people like us, egotistical, self-centered mismanagers, God only knows where we're liable to go without an agenda. You know what I mean? We're liable to end up anywhere. We're liable to end up at the airport selling roses. Liable to end up chanting Hare Krishna on the corner. No telling. So if we keep our agenda simplified, we're all a lot better off. And I heard a guy, one of my old sponsors, gave me the greatest definition of humility. And it talks about in our book, it says a lot that acceptance turns to humility. And his definition of humility was a quiet acceptance of oneself. Quiet. I've never done anything quietly. Never. When I was doing wrong things, I didn't do it quietly. I wanted everybody to know because I thought it might instill some fear. You know what I mean? And even when I did good things, when I came here and started doing good things and started being of service, I also wanted everybody to know so that they would say, wow, see that guy there? He's a trusted servant. See that guy there? He's living a program. And I always used to hear this stuff like, go in one night and make coffee and don't tell nobody. Go do something nice for somebody and just leave it between you and God. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. If I do something good, I want everybody to know because I want people to pat me on the back. I want people to validate me. I want people to say, wow, you're doing good. When only God, only me, and only my sponsor have to know these things. You know? And even on some of it, my sponsor might be iffy. God knows. He's doing a great job without me. He doesn't need my help. When I look back and I think of the things, you know, that have gone on in my life where I came from, you know, I came to NA, I was almost 36 years old. A couple months short of being 36. I was on welfare. I had lost a family. I was unemployed. And I had never been off of probation since I was 17 years old. And I'm not the same person today that I was when I walked in the door. And it comes from believing in this process. This process is what has given me self-acceptance. And internal self-acceptance in here is based on what I do, not what I have. When I'm not feeling the way I'm supposed to be feeling, it's because I'm not doing the things I'm supposed to be doing. It's that simple. It's that simple. I know what to do to make me feel good. Pick up the phone, call another addict, go to a meeting, read, write, help somebody get a day clean. It says right in the 11th step, in the 12th step, it says the deeper we wade in, the greater our rewards will be. Okay? That's getting in the trenches. Getting with somebody who can't get a day clean. When was the last time anybody in here spent all day with somebody who couldn't get a needle out of their arm? Or somebody who couldn't get a pipe out of their mouth? Or somebody who just couldn't seem to get this and was really struggling? Or somebody that was this close to picking up a drug after getting some clean time and nursing them back to health, helping them heal. That's the rewards. That's the real rewards. The in the trenches. Or when was the last time you were at a prison? When was the last time we actively carried this message to the addict who still suffers? When we got up off our couch and went to a detox to carry a message. Went to a rehab to share our experience, strength, and hope, like it was done for us. Man, I'll never forget 4 people, N.A., H&I, Narcotics Anonymous Subcommittee, sitting at a table in 4 chairs, and I was sitting out there, and I was hopeless and helpless. And they said, we have the answer. We. No judge had the answer. No lawyer had the answer. No psychologist had the answer. No psychiatrist had the answer. No correctional officer had the answer. No teacher had the answer. None of my friends had the answer. My parents didn't have the answer. Narcotics Anonymous had the answer. We can help you. When you are unwilling to accept yourself, unable to help yourself, we will help you until you can help yourself, with no conditions. And we've never been able to accept anything unconditionally. I loved my motorcycle till I saw a prettier one. I always loved my girlfriends till I saw one with longer legs. I always loved my job till I saw somebody else making more money. I loved the clothes I had till they came out of style. There were conditions on everything. I always liked my car till I got too many miles on it. I never knew how to just be grateful for what I have. My wants always ruled me. I was never happy with what I needed. It was always about what I wanted. And what I wanted was the ways and the means to get more of anything. That's what I wanted. That's what my life was about. When I got up in the morning, it was about finding ways and means to please me. And I could give 2 shits about you. Because all you were was a pain in the ass anyway. If you couldn't give me anything, I really had no room for you in my life. And when I came into this process, and I started to trust you guys, that trust turned to acceptance. That turned into dependence. I depend on you guys. And in the 11th step it talks about our will for us and God's will for us merging. And that only comes through acceptance, trust, and God reliance. I rely on the God of my understanding. I can't do this without Him. This doesn't work for me without a God of my understanding. This doesn't work for me without a network. This doesn't work for me without people that I can call up and say, at 2 years clean, I was screwing everything that I could get my hands on. At 4 years clean, I was stealing my balls off from everything from work. At 5 years clean, I got involved in a couple stupid drug deals that weren't even like drug deals. I was just trying to help somebody. You know what I mean? At 7 years clean, I was cheating on my wife. At 9.5 years clean, I took too many stinking pills. You know, just looking to stop my back from hurting. You know what I mean? How do we gain self-acceptance? We show up, we stop using drugs, and we start to learn how to tell the truth. That's how we gain self-acceptance. In a nutshell. We change our attitudes, we change our ideas, and we change our behavior. It talks about NA being a new way to live. So, how do our old ways fit into this new way to live? They don't. And yet, every one of us tries to sneak a few of them in. Right? And they're called reservations. They don't fit here. And as many times as I hear it, I'll walk out the door and try to fit one more in. It's wild. Self-acceptance really gives us the ability to laugh at ourselves. You know, I don't take myself seriously, but I take this serious. I really do. It's like, remember when we all first got high for the first time and we thought we found the greatest thing in the world, and we ran out and we wanted to tell all our friends what a great thing we found, and we wanted to share it with everybody because that's what we thought our duty as a friend was. Well, recovery is the same way. And I'm a pig. You give me something good and I want all of it that I can get. Okay? And somebody offered me a way to live that was better than anything I had ever had. I tried it. I liked it. I went around and tried to share it with everybody else, give it to people who didn't want it, force feed it to people, beat people over the head with it. And what happened was, now I realize I share my experience, strength, and hope when asked. I pray for people to ask. I'm grateful for the ability to be a messenger. Because that's all I am, is a messenger. This meeting would be going on and it would be doing just fine without me. Just fine. And what's neat is that it doesn't really matter whether I'm standing up here or sitting back there. Once I come in here and I admit the need for help, miracles happen. Miracles. You know, if anybody's new in here, just keep coming back. Miracles happen in Narcotics Anonymous. And if you're not sure that miracles happen here, grab somebody who's been here for a while and ask them what's going on in their lives to change. And if you still don't believe that there's miracles happening here, maybe you better change your perception of what you believe a miracle to be. Because any addict who doesn't use drugs for one day and can get one day clean, that's nothing more than a miracle. You know, what goes on in here is God's grace. The word grace means unwarranted favor. So what we are is we're examples of unwarranted favor coming from God. If we got what we deserved, we'd either be in Rawway, Trenton, Clinton, South State, a mental institution, or on a slab or 6 feet under. This was not the plan that this disease had for us. This is the plan that a loving God had for us. We just didn't see it. I have a friend, he passed away, and he had some time in this program. And the one thing he said, I mean, it was really wild. It really struck me. He said that what he boiled his first step down to mean was, I'm powerless over God's will for me, and the more I resist, the more insane I become. And we're going to do God's will. One way or another. We're going to do it. So we might as well cut the crap and get with the program. Save ourselves a lot of pain, a lot of insanity, and major unmanageability. If anybody in here doesn't have enough faith to believe that NA works, I'll lend you some of mine. We will lend you some of ours. If anybody in here doesn't trust this process, trust us. Trust what we say. Watch what we do. Follow us home. Follow us to work. Check us out after the meeting. You may see some things you don't like. If anybody spends enough time with me, they're going to find things about me that they're not going to like. But I'm sure if I spend enough time with anybody in here, I'm going to find the same. But what I'm going to find is an understanding that no place else has ever given me. This is the only place in the world that I can come and tell you who and what I am and be accepted just for that. I've never been able to go anywhere and share about myself, my inner self, the exact natures of my wrongs, and find acceptance. I went to other fellowships a long time ago and tried sharing about who and what I was, and I was asked to leave. We have something very special here. It's called empathy. You know what I'm talking about. You know what it was like to stand on a corner and give up your money and have nobody come back. You knew what it was like to promise somebody that you'll never do something again, and 20 minutes later you're doing it again and you're crying and you're wondering why you're doing it. I mean, you know what's wild is, like, think back. Just take 1 minute. Think back to that last day. That last day. That ass kicking. Complete defeat. Complete. Nothing left to surrender. Complete defeat. Think of that last day, that hopelessness. That helplessness. Like feeling like you're this big and like looking up and saying, I can't do this anymore, man. I can't do another shot of dope. I can't do another hit. I can't do another day. I can't drink another bottle of methadone. I don't want another Valium. I don't want to steal anything else. Complete defeat. I couldn't do another day in jail. I couldn't tell another lie. And all the drugs in the world couldn't help me. I needed this. A simple answer. A simple answer. Am I out of time? Am I going too long?
Yes.
Sorry. I love you. Thanks.
All right.